Okay, well, that was an experience. I am glad that it ended the way that it did. I'm glad that we got the happy ending, and I'm glad that Sayori had a second chance at life. Because that was the main goal behind playing this again, is to get some closure that I didn't get the first time playing it.
Because you got left at a...
Yeah, we basically got left at the bad ending. And honestly, if we kept going the way we did just now, we would have got a not very satisfying ending. Sayori would have still been alive again, but
yeah,
ultimately it just wouldn't have been as satisfying, I think. I think we would have achieved the happy ending that we got by accident anyway, just out of my sheer curiosity to see everyone else's storylines before everything breaks.
Right, yeah. You're a bit of a completionist on games?
A little bit. Not always. Sometimes it's a little exhausting and it just sounds like it's too much effort. I'm glad that we got to experience this together. But this is actually the first time that you've experienced the game on the whole.
Oh, yeah. I knew that Sayori died. I didn't know that Yuri died. I didn't know that Natsuki got deleted. I had a very, very vague idea of what Doki Doki was.
I had a somewhat vague idea of what it was. I knew that it wasn't intended for children. Yeah. And that was about it. My friends encouraged me to try and play it, and they were like, you should play it with Dale. And I thought, yeah, sure. I want to give justice to the characters, though. I'm going to try and do voices for them. And they're like, you don't have to do that. And so I was like, no, I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, now I have to.
And Dale, bless his heart, he tried. I'm still so floored that you and Dale do the Mon-Ika thing. Exactly.
It just sounds like
same.
That's the way it should be performed. It's just Mon-Ika. Like,
yeah.
It feels like that's how Natsuki would say it.
How did it feel trying to voice female characters, but in a more natural, non-falsetto-y kind of way?
It felt like a really hard learning curve to master.
Yeah, because you're used to speaking one way, and it's a completely different way of speaking and sounding, and it probably sounds really unnatural to you.
Yeah, because I even when I was wearing this headset here, when I was doing my voices for that final episode just now, I had to move the right earmuff off so that I could hear my own voice still.
Oh, so is that how you did it whenever?
Yeah, most of the time, since my headset's so big and bulky, I would just move my earmuff halfway off my right ear and keep my left, because that's where my mic is.
I see.
Yeah.
Does your mic do you not have monitoring like I do?
No.
Oh,
my mic doesn't do it. That's why I had to do the voice recorder thing on my computer when I was practicing the voices.
Well, most people who do transitionary voices, they do that because they can't trust what they hear in their head. Yeah. Even Sammy says that her high-pitched voice sounds really low to her in her head.
Oh, really?
Which is surprising. But for me, like, I hear the voice in my head is kind of like high, except for, Monica, who eventually gradually just started getting lower and lower as the episodes progressed.
I mean, do we need to talk about Yuri's voice?
I couldn't keep it up. Yuri's voice.
And Natsuki's voice. They both started here and fell down here.
Yeah, but I still think, in my honest opinion, even though Yuri's was more easy for you to do, and you did pretty good.
I tried to
near the end where she kind of just goes off the wall.
Crazy.
I honestly think Natsuki's your strongest character. I think the real reason that I think Natsuki's your strongest voice is because you have to work harder to make it every single time.
I had to put more and more effort into that one. I had to constantly hear myself play it back, and try and keep it where it needs to be.
And there's nothing wrong with having a voice get more and more comfortable as you do it over time. But I think the fact that you were genuinely trying to put in the effort to make it sound the way you wanted it to just made it more consistent overall, and you didn't lose it. It's really interesting that you took that challenge and you kind of ran with it. And I'm glad you did. There was some hesitation in the beginning, but you overcame it.
Hesitation at the beginning.
You overcame it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you've done this before.
I had that little bit of practice for a couple of male voices. Yeah. In Persona.
And the first time it was like pulling teeth to get you to even say a word.
Yeah.
And Oh, I guess we didn't do any other voice things. You just kind of did the Overcooked series with me.
Yeah.
This has been a much better experience overall, and our scheduling wasn't too bad.
No, we tried to keep everything set
consistent.
up. Mm-hmm.
This last stretch though was kind of hard, but especially on the bad thing that happened. I was really not feeling it
right after it hit. Yeah.
For those of you who are not aware, I had a panic attack during the recording of that. Yeah. You can actually hear it in my voice leading up to it, that my voice is shaky before he even witnesses the event. Oh, and it took everything I could to make Monica sound calm as possible. I could still let Hisashi just be a little nervous or whatever, but trying to make Monica sound calm was a chore because I had to fight my body feeling terrible.
Right. I had no clue on anything that I could do to even help you there because I didn't have either of those characters. So
you were like, we can postpone this, and I'm like, no, because it's not gonna work.
Right.
I need to just get through it, and I did. And I'm still shaky a little bit after, so you'll probably be able to tell that my performance is not as good until maybe about like the second day in the new arc. I think that everything you hear is 100% authentic. Everything that you hear is exactly how I was feeling in that precise moment, which just shows the level that people can be attached to fictional characters. And I know it's cringy or whatever, but it's there's no point in storytelling if you can't attach yourself to a character. Otherwise, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I think Salvato, for all his credit, did a really wonderful job, even though this game's purpose was to dissect, or deconstruct the genre itself and kind of poke fun at people who, well, maybe not poke fun at people, but like call out people who specifically go to these kinds of games, I think.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a mean way, because obviously in his letter he said people have their preferences, but I do think there was some sort of need to address the tropes and kind of subvert our expectations on purpose in order to make the story he was trying to tell, which is a tragic one, but I'm so glad that Monica did the right thing. And let's talk about Monica a bit.
Yeah.
Have you actually had a chance to watch the movie I was talking about?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, for those of you who are out there, I am honestly reminded of a movie called Funny Games. It's a movie that I was recommended to watch sometime in 2010, I think? Because the movie was made in like 2007, right?
I think when I looked it up, yeah.
Yeah, so the movie was made in like 2007 and it premiered in 2008. And it's a movie about this family that moves into a new house. But they have a couple of boys who visit them. And these boys are completely destructive in nature. They make demands of the family, and if the family doesn't meet those demands, they torture them. Despite this, the movie was not made to be a horror film. It was not made with horror in mind, but it was rather a deconstruction of violence in media, and it's sort of a big middle finger to people who watch these movies, specifically to watch people get gored. That's because all the violence, all the sexual things that happen completely off screen. You don't see any of it, which means you don't get the satisfaction from watching it happen. But for someone like me, I did not enjoy the movie because I did not like this family just being systematically broken apart. The horrifying twist of this movie is that the main characters are not the family members. The main characters,
the boys.
They go into this world knowing that it's completely fictional and that anything they do is devoid of consequences. And despite this, they choose to be horrible people just because they can. And in a way, Monica just kind of reminds me of that because she realizes that no one else is real, but she has gained sentience. And even though she doesn't really technically have the heart in her to actively harm or kill off any of the other literature club members, she still deletes their character files, or at least moves them to another directory that the game can't find, which then causes the game to break. But because she sees the other characters as not real, she doesn't feel bad for the consequences of her actions and feels that she can just do this in an attempt to get closer to us, the player. Not the character that we're playing, but us, the player.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, that's the kind of vibe I get whenever I think about Monica and how she handled the situation. Though when you, of course, inevitably delete her character file, she does end up truly regretting what she did and reveals that she actually didn't have the heart to do what you think she did and restores the game back to normal, but excludes herself because in the end, she realizes that what she did is not true love. It's not true love if you force someone to be with you. They have to have that choice. And even though Monica wasn't an official choice within the game, which is kind of, regrettable, but that's the way it was made to make her story the way it was.
Yeah.
It's still honestly nice that Monica would make that sacrifice knowing that she can never be with you. And honestly, I wanted to be with Monica in my first run. And they were so interested in that. They were like, oh, you don't say.
Monica, right? Just wait. You'll see.
I think this game is very interesting in a lot of different ways. But let me pass it off to you.
A lot of the initial thoughts I had before starting the series, from what I had gathered from people playing it when it first blew up, right? Was that these girls were all going to die. Brutal, gruesome deaths for no reason. I had no clue how everything was connected to Monica. I had no clue that she was, sentient or anything like that. I thought what we were about to experience was just 4 girls killing themselves for some messed up reason.
Honestly, I thought the same thing too.
Okay.
I was not entirely certain how it was going to play out. I honestly thought there was going to be a round where the next person who was vice president would end up dying, and then Natsuki would eventually become the vice president, and then she would end up dying. All right. I thought it would just be them just one after the other dying until it was only Monica left.
Yeah, that was my mindset coming into this. I'm like, so he and I are just going to experience a bunch of girls dying. And we shouldn't get connected or feel attached to any of them because they're just going to die.
Too late.
Too late.
Too late. It got you too in some ways because you actually genuinely enjoyed the character interactions.
Yeah, I'll say it really felt like you were learning something about them. You were getting to know them, and that's what made it so hard to see them disappear. Like out of the character models that I saw, I was like, Yuri seems like the one that I would be most interested in. But then after learning about her character, being the bookworm, being the shy, reserved girl, I didn't quite feel as connected to her anymore. Really? Yeah.
I actually felt more connected to her as like someone I'd be friends with because in a lot of ways she reminds me of Dale. Dale's the kind of person that, as Monica was actually saying previously, the kind of person who is an introvert, but you can enjoy your time with them. Just like bring a laptop, sit in the same room with them. You don't have to interact. Actually, me and Dale shared comfortable silence with each other for like 2 hours. And all we did was exist in the same room, looking at our own things on our own computers and occasionally sharing something we were seeing.
I've had a couple friendships like that with people where I'd just show up at their house. I would play video games on, say, like their PS3 or whatever, and then they would play on their phone on their bed or something like that. We would just share that space, but we wouldn't say much to each other aside from the occasional comment about either the game or what he was on his phone. But yeah, when I saw Yuri's character and learned more about her character, I felt like I didn't connect too much to it much at all. Just because I'm not that bookworm, I'm not that shy person. Sure, I'm shy. I'll admit that wholeheartedly. But I act animated. I act outgoing. I try to portray myself as someone who's more open and friendly and fun. So I felt more like I connected to Sayori's story when it all came down to it.
No. See, I resonated so hard with Sayori's story, and I really liked it. Me and Dale accidentally just chose Sayori for the first 2. Yeah. We were like, we might as well just go Sayori all the way. And I think for the third one, we tried to figure out which one of the words were hers. Despite that, when we had the opportunity to spend time with one of the other 2 girls, we were like, let's spend time with Natsuki. Yeah. It started off as a joke with me, shouting out, admit it! It made you have feelings for me. Because at first I was trying to figure out who all the characters were. I was like, okay, so Sayori is obviously the Dandere. She's the really sweet one. She's the one that loves you. Yuri's the Kudere. She's the one who has a hard time expressing her feelings and just has warm feelings but hides it behind a cold exterior. Yeah. And I was like, well, then that would make, Natsuki with her immediate, Hisashi's like, why does this sound familiar? It sounds like a tsundere. I was like, she's a tsundere, isn't she? Yeah, immediately, I was like, she's a tsundere, isn't she? And so it was kind of like teasing the character as she was talking. I was like, come on, admit it. Admit it. Admit you have feelings for me. And it just kind of kept going. It kept spiraling from there. I would just be like, every moment she'd say something, I'd be like, just tell me. Just tell me that you love me. And it would just keep going. And it was just like, we were having a blast with the baking scene. Yeah. It was an 1.5-hour stream. Obviously, the video that we're going to release is only going to be about half an hour. But we had so many terrible jokes objectifying this character. There is no polite way to say this. No. We were just having fun with her quirky little attitude and sass, and by the end of it, whenever it looked like she was about to make a kiss, I was like, just do it. Yeah. Just do it. And one final hurrah, I just was like, just admit you love me. And then she backed away, and I was so upset. I was like, dang. But then Sayori confessed her feelings, and I was like, well, dang. We stared at that screen for so long. Eventually, Dylan came upstairs because he was watching the stream from downstairs. He came upstairs because I was like, man, I wish we could just flip a coin or something. And he gave us a coin. He's like, good luck. It doesn't matter. And we flipped the coin, and it landed, and according to the coin toss, we were going to return the feelings to her. Okay. Because it was so hard. For me, I was like, I had so much fun with Natsuki. If I had the choice, I'd pick Natsuki, but I also want good things for Sayori. And ultimately, we got closer to her the most, so it only made sense. Right. But I was still torn because it just didn't feel right. And I know it's dumb to put a relationship on a coin toss. You wouldn't do that with a real relationship.
No, yeah, not in real life.
That was how we did it. And then the bad thing happened, and we were just like, it's been 2 years. It has been 2 years since that stream, and I finally wanted closure. And I've not revealed what it is that you and I are doing with each other. And you have not revealed it to anyone either. No. And I honestly hope that when the first episode comes out, this will have been a pleasant surprise for anyone who's following me, especially my friends who were there to see me stream it. Yeah. Because I want them to see that I'm getting the closure that I want. And
finally fulfilling that.
I want them to know how happy I am, but I want them to hear it in my voice. Because there's a very stark contrast between Hisashi in episode 1. Yeah. Where he's all moody and sarcastic, and then the final episode, where he sounds genuinely happy to be starting his day. The first one, he's just like, even the dialogue itself, he's just like, whatever, okay, whatever, I don't have the energy for this. But in the last one, I sort of wanted to play it like Hisashi has witnessed everything and remembers everything, and has decided that now that he has this new chance to be with Sayori, he's going to be happy about it. Yeah. And he's not going to take it for granted. And honestly, that's a lot of my own happiness too. And I'm glad that the game provides it in the first place. Because if it didn't, I think I'd have set myself up for failure. So do you have any closing thoughts? Any opinions on the experience for you?
I think I find a lot of enjoyment out of experiencing new things, admittedly. I always try to find something new to wrap my head around, to try and understand. And voice acting is one of those things that I've come to start to understand, like the base level, minimal value that I can perform it at. I would be willing to do another one.
That'd be cool. I've honestly been looking at some mods, and there's one that I think I'd like to try. So maybe sometime in the summer, after everyone's seen this episode in particular,
all of this.
we'll try it again. We might even live stream the recording so that we have a version of it out there where we're just having fun with it.
Yeah,
but
just
then the edited version will obviously just be a little more streamlined, so people can like watch it in one sitting and not be like,
instead
oh
of watching
my God,
a 2-hour-long
please
stream,
shut up.
they got a 30-minute video.
Yeah, I don't know. And I honestly hope both versions are enjoyable. Obviously, the one that's edited will have better quality in sound because during live streams, sound goes up.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you joined me on this journey. I think it's amazing that I get to find a way to share what I do with other people. Because I've said it before. Usually, when I give a part of a project to someone else, it's because I trust them with the end result and I want to share that with them. But it's also out of a need to do something with other people.
Yeah,
the reason I did
social and
gaming with the channel is because it's just easier to do by yourself. You don't have to rely on someone else to help you provide content.
Yeah.
And as someone who is creative and just wants to make something creative and add something to a storytelling element, I know the story already exists. It's out there, but I want to narrate it and add my own flavor to it so that I'm adding something to something that already exists. I'm telling the story in my own way. And I want to have the chance to do that more in the future. I'm just glad that I get to do it with someone else. So it's not just me.
I think you are the friend that I've had probably break the most comfort zone in the shortest amount of time.
I could probably say the same about Dale because I did the same thing to him. That poor guy.
Even if it wasn't a barrier that I admitted that was built or like even existed, just smashed completely. But I appreciate that so much.
Good. I'm glad that I can do that for you. And I think Monica actually said something similar to that effect, which is, I honestly don't understand the impact that I have on other people's lives. And I would like to know that I'm making an impact on other people's lives. And if someone just tells me, hey, you crossed my mind today, that would make me happy. Right, definitely. Yeah. I always love feeling validated by people saying that without me being there or interjecting myself in their life, that they were thinking of.
Yeah.
Which means that I've made some sort of impact in my life. And I'm glad that, for you and for some other people that they think about me. I'm glad that you have admitted this feeling to me so that I can feel like my life has meaning beyond just this. Because this is a lot of what I do day to day, and I honestly feel like sometimes I don't really get anything out of it as much as I'd like to. I enjoy the process, and I won't stop just because I'm not getting views or recognition or whatever. But she's right. At the end of the day, even if you do stuff for yourself, it's hard to keep doing it if you don't get some sort of recognition for doing it. There are so many talented people out there whose talents don't get seen, and I think that's a shame. I think the platform itself could have a little more leeway with how people are introduced and how talent is seen. Because at the very least, if someone is seen, then they'll know if what they have to provide is enjoyable. I'm always in the dark. I don't know if what I'm doing is worthwhile or impacting people in the way that I'd like to, because I'm not reaching out to people, and it's not necessarily something I know how to control. So at the very least, in the random chance of meeting people and becoming friends with them and breaking those boundaries, I'm glad that I have done something for you that you actually like that I have done, that I haven't done anything invasive that you dislike.
I'll say it's something that's impacted me probably for the rest of my life. Meeting you and experiencing all the things we've done together in such a short time. We've only been friends for 2 years.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And I've had my fingernails painted, makeup put on me.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Cosplayed in both male and female dress. The board games that you've introduced me to, such as even the one you crafted yourself on Roll20.
Yeah.
But not to turn this into like a thank you video to you.
Yeah, of course.
But right. But just to add that as a nice cliff note to it.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you. Well, if that's all we have to say about Doki Doki Literature Club, thank you, Dan Salvato, for making the game in the first place, even though you probably won't ever see this or hear it. Yeah. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got closure, and that's all I wanted from this experience because my friends made me play it in the first place, and I honestly felt bullied into doing it. And now I've got the closure that I've been wanting for about 3 years now. So I'm glad I got it. Thank you for including some closure in the game.
Yeah, not forcing us to live with an answer we didn't want.
Yeah, so I followed Monica on Twitter, and she's living on my hard drive now. she's living in my flash drive, and I look forward to modding the game and maybe seeing a different side of Monica that someone else has written.
Yeah.
It looks like a pretty good mod. So
and maybe even more of a hashed out version of the other girls.
Yeah. So we'll try it out. We'll see what it looks like in the future. But until then, stay tuned.
Signing off.